bring you the funk that you mothers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Beats, Brews, and Points of View podcast, episode 148. I'm your host, Neil Richter, along with my partner in podcasting, sitting across from me, E-Man Bates.
The PIP, that is me, and we are in the city for episode 148.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yay. Tonight on the program, we'll be discussing sequels in music. Throughout history, artists have decided to continue a thought or a story from one album onto the next. Sometimes they happen in chronological order, and sometimes they happen 20 years later. Do you think it's a good idea? Are these artistic endeavors or a cash grab? We here on the Beats, Brews, and Points of View podcast think they can be both and are here to discuss it. Also on the show tonight, we'll celebrate Women's History Month, discuss the WWE's recent events, run something old, something new, and E-Man will reveal a 20-year-old recent discovery.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. But before we get to that, I would like to acknowledge the heavy hit that the music community took over the last month or so. So we would like to acknowledge the contributions and everything that they gave to us, and that would be Roberta Flack, Angie Stone, Roy Ayers, and Dwayne Wiggins from Tony. And all four of these artists were much more than just singers. They were multi-instrumentalists, songwriters, actors, performers. And being that it's Women's History Month, I would like to offer a few words about Angie Stone and Roberta Flack before we get into it. That song that I started the podcast off of was a song by a group called The Sequence. The Sequence was Angie Stone's first group. That song was called Funk That, and that is the very first song ever by a female hip-hop group in hip-hop. That's the very first song that's ever been released by a female group. She was instrumental in the development of hip-hop and also in soul music. Her and her girl group, The Sequence, they got their shot by bum rushing basically Sugar Hill Gang after a concert, and they were able to sing for Sugar Hill Gang and became Sugar Hill Records' first signees. And so they kind of had a huge impact in that regard. And Angie also was very instrumental in the career of D'Angelo. She co-wrote D'Angelo's first two albums, Brown Sugar and Voodoo, and she actually dated D'Angelo for a while, then has a child with D'Angelo as well.
Shit.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty an interesting little tidbit, and so she was a big deal in the neo soul world as well as being an innovator for hip hop. So I just definitely wanted to shout that out, and then I also wanted to shout out Roberta Flack, because Roberta Flack is another one of the most gifted soul musicians and multi-instrumentalists. Roberta Flack is an American singer and pianist, known for her emotive genre, blending ballads and spanning through different genres like R&B, jazz, folk, pop, and kind of contributed to the birth of the Quiet Storm radio format. Her commercial success also is a little bit tied into hip hop, if you will, because she was the original version of Killing Me Softly that went popular, which we all know Lauryn Hill famously covered and with the Fugees, and that has gone on to be just a massive hit for both of them. So I just wanted to share a little bit of tidbits of information on both of them. Roberta spent a lot of years also writing and performing with Donny Hathaway, which is one of my favorite artists as well. So I just wanted to shout out both of them. And then also, it's kind of interesting because you can also correlate Dwayne Wiggins and Roy Ayers' careers into the women's history movement as well, because Dwayne Wiggins was actually responsible for early production work with Destiny's Child and helping Destiny's Child reach their success. He's also worked with her and Kehlani outside of his own group. And then Roy Ayers kind of birthed kind of like the neo soul movement, but also the only this one I kind of this is a little bit of a reach, I will admit, but the only connection I could tie Roy Ayers to the women's history would be the fact that Jill Scott on her debut album, Who Is Jill Scott, sampled Roy, and he was sampled hugely in hip hop throughout the years. He was a big influence on Dr. Dre, as you may have noticed in the movie they did on NWA. It shows him when he's kind of gaining his inspiration, laying on a pile of records.
Everybody loves the sunshine. Yep. Yeah, it's like the first like five, after the Eazy-E shit.
Yep. And then something that I just learned today in doing a little bit of research about Roy is he has a pretty deep connection to Detroit. Detroit jazz stations were playing his music very heavily, and so he gained a following here in Detroit very quickly and would perform here a lot. And his music would be kind of like the soundtrack of summers in Detroit, as I'm discovering and reading about.
Interesting.
So I definitely wanted to make sure that I highlighted all of those people. And then, but yeah, before we get into the meat and potatoes of our episode, E-Man, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, dude. Doing good. Just trying to get everything set up. You guys are watching this now. Like, this was chaos for like a good 2 hours. Finally got everything back and forth. Everything looking good. I'm excited,
good.
Dude. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this thing goes. I've started registering for classes, by the way, so I'm going back to school. I got about a year before I graduate. So
dude, that's
yeah,
amazing.
I know, right?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, it's time. I just kind of want to. I mean, the reason I left in the first place was, one, I got screwed out of some grants back in the day. Well, not back in the day. It was like 2017-ish, I would say. So that was one reason I left in the first place. And then two, my mom passed not too long after that. So I was just like, all right, I got tired. But it's just time to go back, man. So I just kind of want to have that stat, to add to the other stats.
Cheers to educating yourself,
Cheers,
man. I couldn't be happier for you.
Give me a hell yeah!
I couldn't be happier for you, and I couldn't feel more connected to what you just said, because that's been something heavily on my mind too. E-Man and I both have journalistic dreams here with this podcast, and we've always made a point to be educational with our stuff. And so I've been listening to some audiobooks about journalism, and that's actually an idea that I thought too, because I almost have finished it. I have a digital media arts degree, but I almost finished an associate's degree at Specs Howard, and I was kind of thinking about getting scheduling a counseling meeting to see if I can kind of maybe take some journalism classes there. So I think E-Man and I are both heading in the same direction on this one for sure.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, my thing is, like, when I was at Eastern, I was taking, I went, that was my major. I was going for journalism and communications. And I remember my media advisor, this is when I was writing for the Echo and things, he was telling me that, you don't necessarily need a degree for this line of work. You just have to have a certain kind of personality, a certain grit for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have that, but at the same time, like, to have like that stat that goes with it is like something going, something I kind of want to add to my resume.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, I went on to write for other things, like, shout out to Beers for Everyone, shout out to Runner. Like, I got to write for other things. Got another article coming out with
Metro.
Yep. So I didn't want to say that, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's leading to other stuff anyway without it. But I kind of want to have that, like, just that one little check to add to the resume, So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing where this year go. Unfortunately, most of the shit is like math things I have to do, but like out of the year. But we'll see, man. So I'm kind of on this thing, like, and I'm kind of following my brother Neil's journey here with the sobriety.
Yes, sir.
Coming up on 2 months myself, and it's just like something about like 2025 just told me to lock the fuck in, essentially. So
same.
I'm really trying to be more disciplined with things I need to do, like, if be uncomfortable for a little bit so I can get to where I need to go, So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
At one time saw like a quote from Jim Carrey, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something about, take a year and live in uncomfortability. And if you can't live to the standards of yourself, and you're constantly trying to do what society tells you, you care way too much about what society says.
Absolutely. I could not agree more on that. That's actually, I think, where I took that from a little bit, because I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. I know
Hell
you
yeah.
are too.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, like, you really have to have like that discipline to really get where you want. Anybody can want, and we all have hopes and dreams. We all have ambitions. We all have like goals we want to achieve. But it's about putting the work and locking the fuck in and do what you want. So my motto for 2025: belt to ass. Belt to ass 2025. That's
agree.
our motto, bro. And that's probably going to be the name of this episode, to be honest with you. Belt to ass 2025.
Belt to ass 2025.
Belt to
I love
ass
that.
2025, baby. There we go.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. And, even though we started this in 2018, I definitely went through some of my hardcore disease years of being way too much into the party and not enough into focusing on my career path. And now that I just celebrated 2 years sober, I feel very
Hell yeah!
I feel very locked in, and I'm having like all of the. I guess you could call it a spiritual awakening, which is crazy for me to say because I've been such a skeptical person my whole
It's
life.
not crazy to say.
It's not crazy to say, no, but it just feels strange to me to be kind of like leaning into it and not letting my skepticism take hold of me and kind of just letting things unfold the way they are, because I'm seeing signs everywhere now. Like, I don't know if maybe I was just too drunk to pay attention before, but I see the signs everywhere now. So I'm trying to focus in on that. And that actually kind of reminded me, because the Artist's Way thing that I've been following was an idea that I actually saw from Doechii. I had the book, but Doechii had promoted it on her Instagram, saying that like this is what helped her bring her to where she's going now. And I was like, oh shit, I own that book. And so I started reading it and doing the course, and it's helping me. And before we move on from Women's History Month, I just wanted to shout Doechii out one more time, because she got a cosign from Lauryn Hill yesterday. Lauryn Hill brought her out at a concert. They performed Doo-Wop, That Thing, together. And that's a special thing because, Lauryn Hill is regarded as one of the best ever in hip-hop, especially for the women. And, Doechii became one of 3 people to win Album of the Year Grammy for hip-hop, Lauryn Hill being one and Cardi B the other. So for Lauryn Hill to kind of pass the torch like this to Doechii, it just feels special. And it feels like something that's a historic moment for women's history right now. So I just wanted to mention that. But we're going to move on in here to this album's sequels thing that I wanted to get into today. And, for the dawn of time, artists have been doing this. And the reason I wanted to bring it up now is because we have 3 very recent examples. Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre put out The Missionary, which is a follow-up to their 1992 collaborative effort, Doggy Style. Redman put out Muddy Waters 2, which is his follow-up to his 1996 project, Muddy Waters. And then The Weeknd just finished his second trilogy, which would be a three-parter, I guess, if you will. So there's a lot of fresh examples on my mind. And I wanted to see where E-Man's thoughts are on this too, because for me, the Missionary one did not hit like Muddy Waters 2 for me. If I'm going to compare those two, I felt like the fresher ideas came out of Redman, and I found myself feeling a little bit disinterested in what Snoop Dogg had to rap about.
Another example I would throw would be Kid Cudi in there too, with the Man on the Moon trilogy.
Great
point. No, I didn't like it.
Didn't like The Missionary?
No, not as a collective whole. There's songs that like I would take from it, and that's the one thing legacy artists like Snoop and Dre, you always put on like such a higher pedestal than most people because like of like the classics you gave us over the time.
Yes,
I think that we could have done without that, if I'm being honest. But we could have used an album from them, but I don't know if you want to add that to like the repertoire of like something that like great, like as like not Doggy Style, but as like it was Doggy Style.
Yeah, it was Doggy Style, yeah.
And then Climb 2001 was Dre's, right?
Yes, that was Dre's.
Okay, so to have like something like that, like where Doggy Style is such a classic album, bro. It's like when you talk about like the top 50 maybe albums. You want to say hip hop or you want to say all time? I would say probably hip hop.
Yeah, probably hip hop.
Probably
even all time.
You could say all time.
Yeah.
You could. There's an argument for it for all time.
I have some rock examples to bring up too. So
it's hard to follow an album like that up because that was that was the album that put Snoop Dogg and Death Row, for that matter, and on the map, I would say, in a way, right?
Yeah.
So to have something like that, and then to follow, and then a sequel that late. I mean, it can be done. It just has to be done right, and I don't think as a collective that was executed as I won't say correctly, but I don't think it was executed to the full extent I think they could do it.
Yeah, I agree.
That would make sense.
I agree with you. And to piggyback on your point, there's a couple reasons why I think it is a good idea for them, but also a bad. So the reason I think it's a bad idea, especially when an album is as classic as a Doggy Style or something like that, it's already kind of setting yourself up for failure because you're already setting an impossible standard for yourself. Because there's no way that the fans aren't going to make the connection when you already made it for them. When you're saying that it's a follow-up to Doggy Style, people are going to compare it to Doggy Style.
Right.
Whether it's subconsciously or consciously, they're going to do that. So in a way, you're setting up for failure already with that. But at on the different side of the coin there, you also have the success kind of driving people to maybe go check out that
off
album.
of it
Because of Doggy Style.
I mean, at the same time, it's also two of the biggest names in hip hop culture coming together for a follow-up album. Like that alone will drive people there. And then and then you added that sauce of it's a follow-up to essentially an all-time classic album. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that I don't know. It just wasn't done to the point where I think it could be done.
Right.
It's been a minute. It's kind of funny you brought this up. It's been a minute since I actually looked at the track. Let me actually pull up the track list real quick.
For me, as Dr. Dre being one of the best producers of all time, I think The Missionary has some of the worst beats I've ever heard
Oh, Jesus.
in hip hop in a long time. Some of those are just
where's my Neil rant button?
Those flips,
Where's my Neil rant?
the flips, I cannot stand the classic rock flips, like the Tom Petty shit. There was a few flips on that album that did not work at all for me, like at all. I was like cringing listening to that Tom Petty Last Dance with Mary Jane with Jelly Roll and stuff. Like that was so
I'm going to be honest. Jelly Roll has become the Frank's Red Hot of music. People just be putting that shit on everything.
Straight up, man. Oh, that's so true. And then the other thing, so the other reason that I mentioned in the intro to the episode that it could also be considered a cash grab. And the reason I say that is sometimes I don't understand, and this happens in the movie world all the time.
Right.
When you get a sequel that's like 20 to 30 years after the original, and you're like, you kind of lost the narrative, man. This is like whole generations of people have been born since then. Like,
so, I mean, we can compare that. Like when they did that prequel for The Sopranos, it just didn't do it. It didn't do it for me. It was cool, but it didn't do it for me. Or then what was it? Avatar that recently just came out. Avatar 2, right? When did the first one come out? Like probably 10 years prior.
10 years prior before, yeah.
It was good. And actually, I probably view it in the same regard, and I'm digressing here from the Snoop and Dre shit, but I think that I liked it a lot. I actually like those type of movies. I will watch them once, appreciate what it is, and never go back to it.
Yeah.
That just because one, my attention span,
yeah,
and two, it's just like I can appreciate it. I can appreciate the art and the time for what it was, but stuff like that just doesn't have like a replay value to me. And to be honest with you, and this is how I relate it back to the Missionary album. I'll appreciate it for what it is. Because, I mean, it's two of the legends in our culture coming together for a follow-up album to a classic album. I'll appreciate that for what it is, but did I go back to this album? Absolutely not.
No. And, you know, another thing, too, is I think another thing that tainted this album for me
What's up?
Was the overexposure of Snoop Dogg. I see him so often that I just kind of don't care what he has to say right now. Do you know what I mean? And it's not that I don't care about Snoop Dogg, but we see him talking all the time. Do you know what I mean? That's true, though. We see him all the time. He's always on TV. He's always in commercials. He's always on the radio. Like, he's always in our face. So I think that, like, subconsciously, I wasn't as interested to check in with Snoop Dogg as I was for the Redman Muddy Waters album. And switching into Muddy Waters 2, I like this one significantly better. But I can say it also doesn't necessarily. I guess they did definitely bring back some of the skit ideas and a few of the things in the album cover is similar from Muddy Waters
Talking
1.
about getting cancer, you're
But-
like, y'all ain't giving enough head.
The skits are hilarious. I love Redman's hilarious,
Redman is
so that's
the
always
master
worked
of the
out for
skits.
him. But like this one also probably didn't need to be called Muddy Waters 2. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it would be a great album regardless. It's not like it made me really think of the first album all that much. But I gotta say, Redman is a lot of rappers' favorite rappers for a reason,
Yeah,
man.
he's in my top.
He's still got it.
I would absolutely put Redman in my top 10 personally.
Yeah.
Like, he's there.
And then another highlight from it is how good do him and Meth still sound? That La 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 record.
Did you? No, they were in. What they performed at some festival in it was in Ipsy last year. It was like some cannabis festival.
Yeah, we missed that
Yeah.
one, but we saw him at Roots Picnic, so that was
Yeah,
dope.
that's true. That's true. Speaking of Roots, we were talking about D'Angelo earlier. Speaking of Roots Picnic, the
Headlining
lineup
that
just
shit?
went up. Yeah,
that was crazy.
different conversation, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then we are we off Muddy Waters?
Yeah, so well,
Okay.
I guess I didn't want to spend too much time on it because I actually have it. I've only gotten a couple listens out of it because it's a
Right.
long ass project. So I want to spend some more time on it before I give the album like a full review. But I do think that this one hit. Before we move into the weekends, one thing I'll say because I know I'm going to forget it. I think the sequel thing started like this became an idea to me where I started thinking about this when Marshall Mathers LP or Marshall Mathers Part 2 came out. And I was like, this one was a giant miss for me. Like
There's songs I like on it.
There is
but
songs
that
I
was
like
that
on
was the
it.
that was a Rick Rubin heavy one, right?
yes, it
Okay.
was.
There's
All
songs I
those
like on
classic
it.
rock flips.
The Kendrick song I like a lot. Love Game. A lot of people didn't like that song. I like
didn't
that song
love
a
that.
lot. I love the Wicked Way. Wicked Way was on Recovery, I think, right?
I can't remember.
I getting by with my wicked ways. That song.
You know what? I don't remember. No, that is on that.
Is that on it?
I
Yeah,
think
because
that
that's
is
a
on
rock
that.
flick.
Yeah,
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 that
yeah, I
should
think
be
that
on
is
it.
on
I didn't know
that,
if that
yeah.
was at a
I
Recovery.
think that is on that.
I like that song.
Yeah.
There's songs on there like that, and I've been going back to little Eminem tangent here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like the fact Eminem has this thing to me where I haven't gone back to an Eminem album. I think the Kamikaze was the last one I actually went back to and listened to it a lot. But Music to Be Murdered By and then the Death of Slim Shady I never went back to. Eminem is still one of the all-time greats. He still can rap his ass off. He's still great at what he does. It's just I guess it's a lack of replay value to me this time.
Yeah.
This time around.
I listened to the Death of Slim Shady for like the first month that it came out, but then I haven't gone back to it.
Yeah,
since then.
I feel like I get into this way, and I think you have a similar thing where we'll go back. We might go back to it every once in a while, and then just kind of I appreciate it for what it is, and then kind of leave it alone from there.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, like I didn't go back to it when I saw I got the Grammy nom. I'm like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Eminem got a Grammy nom. I mean, this Eminem, he'll always be in that category. But at the same time, it's like there was albums I would absolutely put above Death of Slim Shady.
Oh,
in
for
that
sure.
album.
I think what it is with Eminem
Yeah.
is Eminem's so abrasive and a lot of the content can be so jarring that it's almost like watching horror movies. Like you watch a good horror movie and recognize it for a good horror movie, but you're not going to go back and watch it a million times. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Like, because it messed you up in the head and you got to be in kind of a messed up headspace to like
Right.
get there, you know? And so a lot of Eminem albums are like that.
It's also very subjective. Like lady friend I'm talking to right now, she is a big horror fan as well. I love the Smile series. It's one of my
Okay.
favorite horror movies, like one of my favorite horror series in the past like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I personally think it's great. So, I mean, it's subjective on that aspect too.
I know
But
a lot
it's
of
one
people
those-
loved the second one, but I just did not share the
it's so
same
fucking
feeling.
good.
Oh, I did not like the main.
Good. It opens it up to a whole new universe, dog.
I just thought the lead character, the lead actor, Kevin Bacon's daughter or whatever. her
Oh,
name is.
Sosie Bacon.
Yeah, Sosie Bacon.
And that's the first one.
I thought, yeah, I know.
Okay,
I think
yeah.
she was a better lead character than the pop star girl from the second.
I like the story of the pop. Okay, I agree with that. I like Sosie Bacon's acting the first movie, but I like the story of the second one better.
Okay.
Because it opens it up to a whole fucking universe.
Okay.
That's what I like
Yeah.
about it. Because I'm like, okay, I don't want to spoil.
Look at us
it,
still
but,
talking
like,
about sequels.
It works.
It works.
It works.
It
Still
works.
same shit. Anyway.
But anyways, I do want to move into the Weeknd's trilogy because his is an interesting one
Because
because
it's also going to the movies.
And you can kind of judge it against his own work because Weeknd has 2 trilogies. So, and this is something that in preparation for this show, I did realize that when he did the first trilogy, that all came out in the same year. So the whole first trilogy was all right together.
Talking about like House of Balloons and Wednesday and all.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that all came out together like as
Echoes of
a
Silence.
one piece. Whereas this newest one through Dawn F. What was the first one? It was
After Hours, Dawn FM, and Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Hurry Up Tomorrow. Those ones were spaced out a couple years in between. Like After Hours came out, and then a couple years later, Dawn FM, and then a couple more years later, now we have this new one. And I don't know if it's because of the spacing of it, and it took a bigger chunk of our time from the weekend. It didn't hit for me as much as the first one.
Talking about the trilogy as a whole, or just the
trilogy
this last
as a
album?
whole. Well, I guess actually mostly the last album.
The last album, yeah.
Because I felt
agree
like
on
I was
that.
sort of
I
tired
agree
of
on
these
that.
ideas by this album. Like, I was way more into Dawn FM than I was into this one.
I liked After Hours out of the 3 the most.
After Hours is dope too.
Yeah. So if you compare, I mean, you got to think about it. The Weeknd, the character of the Weeknd. I won't say Abel, but the character of the Weeknd went from this person who did not want to be photographed or seen, everything like you could see that in the first 3 projects, right? To fucking mainlining the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different character flip, I feel like, in a way. So you can compare it, right? Because I mean, they say like the last track on Hurry Up Tomorrow flips into High for This, which is the very first track.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that's dope.
On
the trilogy, the first trilogy.
What was it? House of Balloons?
House of Balloons.
Was it House of Balloons?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the very first track on House of Balloons, which is his first mixtape. I think that's super dope to do. It's one of the, I think this was done right overall, even though that album is flipping long.
Super long.
Let me see if I can articulate what I want to say here.
Yeah.
I think that we as fans were expecting the highest bar for, and it kind of goes back when we were talking about Stupid Dre. You expect the highest bar from like our legends in this history. In this sense, I would put Weeknd in the legend category in R&B. I think that we were expecting this high production album, and we got it. I think the story got kind of dragged out a little bit, but at the same time,
I feel the same way.
I'm happy we got it, and I think it was executed correctly. I just think it was dragged out a little bit.
Is this Weeknd album Godfather Part 3?
It's not.
First 2 were bangers and the Part 3 sucked.
It wasn't Godfather Part 3. It wasn't a bad. Like it wasn't a bad project by any means. There's songs. There's a lot of songs. Actually, was just listening to it the other day. Well, not the other day. I was listening to today. I was listening to Baptized in Fear.
Yeah,
and that's probably I probably think that's probably my favorite track on the whole project. I would kind of going back and listen like what are my favorite tracks on this whole trilogy, and that's probably in my top 10.
Yeah,
out of all the songs we got there. I think that it's one of the trilogies that's executed correctly, but you're dealing with the tale of two artists though at the same time, because like Weeknd for Echoes of Silence, House of Balloons, and Wednesday is different from Weeknd from After Hours, Dawn FM, and Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because, you were trying to get on. You have this whole California thing, trying to make it to LA, trying to make it to Cali. Because once we get that, we're going to fucking, party and this like that. And it's this big drug culture. And then you got all that. And now it's like the decline. It's like the fall off, essentially. Yep. And yeah, you got what you asked for, but what did it cost you? It cost you your fucking soul.
Yep, and your soul.
Yeah, so
sure.
I mean, the actual story is crazy. Like, Weeknd, Abel, whatever, is like one of them. I think he's a creative genius in his own regard. Because me, as somebody like myself who thinks of art in concepts and creativity, I put him as like one of those people like, how the fuck did you even think of this shit? Because I put him in a very, very high regard in that. I think it was executed done well. I think just to your point, it was just dragged on a little bit compared to the other three. But at the same time, the bar is higher because of, the status is way the fuck out there now.
Yeah.
So, and then, you didn't have Mike Dean. You didn't have like all these producers like all at the time and all this access and stuff you have now. Like he has a fucking movie coming out for this album.
Yeah, he does.
Right? In June or something like that. And you got, what's her nuts? Wednesday Addams. Well, you know what's funny? You know what's funny? He has a mixtape called Wednesday, and he has Wednesday in the movie. I love that. That and then my man from Saltburn. I forgot his name though.
Oh,
Barry Keenigan, something like that.
Koenig or something. I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
Since I offered the negative parts of the album first, I will end it on a positive because I do believe in constructive criticism, and I don't want to just be like this negative type of person all the time. So I will say I really enjoyed the first 8 songs in a row. Like right off the rip, I thought the first 8 were great. I thought it gave some great production and stuff like that. And like I've mentioned before, I don't really listen to The Weeknd for his lyrical content as much as I listen to him as like another instrument in the band kind of thing. Because a lot of it's, toxicity and a lot of drug talk and all that stuff. And I'm not in that space anymore. Maybe that's what didn't hit me the same for this one.
You're sober?
Yeah, being sober, trying to listen to The Weeknd.
I think that, I want to say there was a podcast I listened to that kind of brought this up. Is like his music is kind of, I feel like that character is dying off because like the fan base is maturing. Like I'm not, like me personally, like I'm not 22, 23 anymore listening to "This Is a Happy House." I'm not listening to that anymore. Like that was my introduction to The Weeknd.
Yeah.
He's in a whole different space. Like the fan base itself that was first introduced to him is in a whole different space in the ball game. It's like how we look at fucking Tyler, for instance, like Yonkers, like
so different from where he's
eating
at.
roaches and throwing up and shit to like where he is now.
Yeah.
So it's all about maturity and growth as an artist at the end of the day. So I think that's what the fall off of this character is, because I think that Abel as a person and I don't know if he takes the Weeknd character, it might be the death of that, is probably in a different space and wants to like make different shit now. But I gotta finish this person. I gotta finish this character off that I created first.
Story. Yeah.
It's like in going back when we're talking about Eminem, Slim Shady, and that's another one too. That's a huge thing. Like you're finished, but Eminem kind of flirts with it, like you need me, I created you, and stuff like that. You weren't shit without me. Like you have Marshall, who makes these like Not Afraid type songs. Then you have Slim Shady, who will do like Just Lose It or Fact or shit like that. Bro, I listened to Fact the other day, and let me tell you, that song is still. It just makes me laugh and cringe at the same time every time I hear it, but because it was like you just open your album with that, like your fucking like your greatest hits album with that song. Anyway, I digress. But but you're like it's growth and it's your character, like making this persona, you're creating this persona into the world, and then you mature and then you grow out of it. In Eminem's case, you kind of like have this like tug of war with it. In The Weeknd's case, you kind of kill it off, And
even like I was gonna say up another example, even like Kendrick has played with these things on To Pimp a Butterfly. The first half of the album, he's battling the evils of Lucy and Uncle Sam, and then the back half, he's coming into his position and his power, and leaning into the messaging and trying to help the youth. So he's always in his own career has always battled with that inner demon. And I love that when artists, play with their introspection. And one thing I'll definitely credit for The Weeknd is having the sense about himself to understand when it is time for this to end, because a lot of people can just go on doing the same thing forever and it just totally falls off and nobody cares anymore because they've been giving you the same ideas for forever. So I think for The Weeknd to recognize that within himself, he's got more to give and maybe that he wants to do it as himself and not this character that he's created, I think is pretty dope.
Another trilogy we mentioned a little earlier was Kid Cudi with the Man on the Moon series. That's another one that's kind of like, I will always put Man on the Moon 1 and Man on the Moon 2, I will say are probably one of my favorite albums from my 20s.
Yeah.
For sure. 3 did not do it for me though.
I
There
was-
was songs like Tequila Shots is great. There's a few songs on there that I'll take, but the album overall just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
And then Kid Cudi's tough one for me because it's like there is a growth there because I mean there's albums like Speed and Bullet to Heaven that didn't get critically acclaimed, but I personally love a lot.
Yeah.
You know? But then Wizard's another one like a lot of people shit on. I also still loved a lot. But then there's like this theme, like, you know, you're still having the same issues that you were, 12 years ago and shit. Like, what else you got to talk about? So I get like the criticism on that. Kid Cudi's always going to be one of my favorites. He's always going to be like, hold a special place to me because of the time I heard certain songs on that. And I still will check for new music from him. I'll never completely write that off, but at the same time, you just know kind of what to expect with certain things.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have your core fan base, and we were talking about this kind of like growth artists. You're always gonna have your core fan base that listen to, what you're gonna get from this project. Like Currency makes a fuck ton of music.
Yep.
You're not gonna get you're gonna get introspective raps like Currency. Dom Kennedy's another one like that. Larry June's another one like that. You know what you're gonna get in these certain bags for people. And I love that. Like, that's a great lane. I'm not expecting fucking
Wiz Khalifa.
I'm not expecting no like rappity rap shit from them.
Right.
At all. And if they do that, cool, but I'm not expecting that going into it.
I brought up Wiz Khalifa as an example because he's getting ready to launch Cushion Orange Juice Part 2.
That's gonna be interesting.
I gotta admit, man, and I know
That's
so,
such
like,
a classic.
We talk
mixtape,
about
bro.
like deep lyrics and heavy, and how I've been more into like the messaging and stuff. But I don't expect that out of an artist like Wiz. And I got to admit, man, he's been putting out like some really quality freestyles over the last month, like 5 in a row. One of them with Chevy Woods, and then another a handful by himself. And he's been sounding really good, like flow patterns and stuff. That's kind of what I listen to artists like Wiz and Currency stuff for more, is like flow patterns and like the kind of like the coolness about it a little bit, because that's kind of the artists they are. They haven't really ever dove too deep into trying to be like, deep messaging kind of artists.
Right.
That's just not their thing. And that's okay too, like.
And that's okay. And yeah, there's a lane for everything, bro.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to like have that. Like 2 Chainz, another one like that. I fucking love. 2 Chainz has a classic. He has 2 classic albums to me. Actually, no.
That
I take
new
that
one,
back.
man. Woo!
One classic album. I'm sorry, but the one with Larry June and Alchemist.
Yeah,
that
so
album
good.
is fucking incredible.
It's so good.
Oh my god,
He sounds amazing on LPs.
the reality rap. That's such a dope bag that I don't think gets really talked about enough necessarily, because when you got like your backpack like lyrical miracle shit, then you got the drill, and then you got like certain things that like reality stuff is just like I woke up, I'm doing this, I'm gonna get some money, go to my car, met a bitch online, met a bitch in the club, like stuff like that. It's just dope to have like some simplistic shit sometimes, just like realistic,
just some good stuff to
like
ride
there's
to,
nothing wrong with that.
Especially when you got someone as good behind the boards as an Alchemist.
Alchemist
so
is
you're
one of my
like, this
Alchemist
awesome.
is my top 3 favorite producer. So it's just
Definitely.
like, yeah.
I was trying to remember the name of my favorite 2 Chainz album. Oh yeah,
Pretty girls like trap music.
Yep,
that's the only
for
one.
sure.
I was gonna say 2. Like I was gonna put
I liked So Help Me God. I thought that was a good album.
Based on a True Story. That was the other one I was gonna put in there, which I love that. I love that a lot, but I don't like. Pretty girls like trap music is eons above that to me.
I agree.
But,
yeah, I like that one too. It was funny. It's funny that you mentioned, like stream of conscious type of raps like that they do sometimes. And I forget what producer it was. Someone on Twitter was like, punching in ruined hip hop for me. They're like, motherfuckers need to go back to writing songs because all you guys are making songs about nothing.
I mean, a lot of. I feel like that. I mean, because when you have like an artist say like, I don't know if you ever watch like the Fade to Black thing with Jay-Z, like how he just kind of goes in, like he'll just think of some shit and then just freestyle it and kind of go. but he's like writing it in his head.
Yeah, he's different. He writes in his head.
That's what a lot of people think they do.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a great point. That's a great point. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny. And if for the audience maybe that doesn't, I've been trying to do this more, especially like I started doing this on the YouTube channel. I'm trying to remember that not everyone pays attention to music as much as E and I do. So like punching in is kind of like a term for like just, you can have the producer punch you right into the song where you left off, and if you don't like it, you can just
say
go
you
back
flub
in,
a word like
right back into it. And that didn't, that's more of like over the last 25 years type of thing. Like in the 60s and 70s, they didn't even have the ability to do that. So a lot of these dudes, like David
tape
Bowie
was
and
different,
Prince,
dog.
they was hitting one takes and shit. And like
yeah, because I'm
shit.
like rewinding tape. Yeah,
Expensive.
Good luck.
Expensive when you were working with reel to reel.
Yeah, digital changed the game on that for sure.
It definitely did.
Yeah.
It definitely did. But yeah, that's good. I think we got a good chunk in on that. We can always revisit more, but we wanted to get to a few other things here. For the next thing, I'm probably going to kick it over to E-Man to start the discussion because some crazy events happened in the WWE world with The Rock and Cody Rhodes and Travis Scott, and I'll let E-Man tell you.
Yeah. Why is Travis Scott trying to be Dennis Rodman?
Oh, dude.
Why is Travis Scott trying to be Dennis Rodman? So, Elimination Chamber just happened, right? And there was a whole thing like that led to like the week before where The Rock is pretty much trying to play like this character, like, he has this character, the Final Boss, which he created last year going into WrestleMania. And he goes up to Cody Rhodes. He goes like, we became friends. Our moms are friends. Like, obviously our dads have been friends. His dad was, Soul Man Rocky Johnson, and
Yes,
Cody's
sir.
dad is Dusty Rhodes. So, there's a long history with the families there too. And then, they had like a big rivalry last year where, where Roman Reigns coming involved because they're, Rock and Roman are cousins, allegedly, that they came in. But anyway, fast forward to that. The Rock makes Cody an offer because, The Rock is on the board of TKO and things like where he's like, he's on the board for essentially that's Cody's boss.
Yeah.
And he comes in and goes, hey, be my champion, and I'll give you whatever you want. It's kind of like going back with the Lucy with Kendrick situation. Like, like he goes, yeah, I want your soul.
Yep.
Like, I want your soul, and I will give you whatever you want. And then he makes a decision on it. Like, he gives some time, whatever. Fast forward, Elimination Chamber happens, and he makes a decision. Cody pretty much, I wish we could play the clip if you want, but I'm not going to do that. You can go look it up on YouTube. Anyway, he pretty much goes says like, "Hey, Rock, go fuck yourself." And then it was just like, "Oh my God, everybody!" And then John Cena. Oh my bad, I left out a good part in this. John Cena just won the Royal Rumble, not Royal Rumble. He just won the Elimination Chamber, so he would go to face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. He beat out like 5 other competitors, and the ring. So Cena just won, does his shit. Rock comes to the ring with Travis Scott. Oh, no. Travis Scott comes out first playing that fucking Fiend song. And then Rock comes out. And Rock was like, oh, I got goosebumps. Like, he does his whole shit when he gets in there. Walks into the ring. I'm flubbing this up, guys. I apologize. I'm doing a lot of shit
I'm
behind
following
the
you.
scenes.
I'm following you.
So, anyway. So, he comes out. And then Cody gets into the ring. And he pretty much, like, fast forward, offers the soul. Cody says, no, go fuck yourself. Cena goes, oh, my God, he just said that. And then Travis Scott is, like, burning sage in the background for some reason, trying to ward off the demon spirits or whatever. And then they go, like, Cody and Rock go to hug. Oh, not Cody, Rock. Cena and Cody go to hug. And then Rock just pretty much just goes, and this to the camera just goes.
The throat slit move.
The throat slit. Cena just gives him like the stale ass face and just kicks Cody square in the nuts. He was like,
shut up, bitch.
I'm so glad I got that sound effect. Anyway, so then he just goes on this brutal attack on Cody, and essentially Cena for some reason gave his soul to the board, which is funny because Cena other than Batista, I would say it'd probably be another one that's just like big in Hollywood came out of that, you know? So it was just by saying like, why Cena, why? We still haven't gotten answers of why Cena did it.
Yeah.
They had the press conference after Elimination Chamber, and Cena just essentially mic dropped and fucking walked out the door. So my question is, why the fuck is Travis Scott there?
Seriously, man.
And I don't mind Travis Scott. It's just like that did not need Travis Scott there to be, and I don't mind. And like, I'm a fan. I would say I'm a casual fan of Travis Scott. I just don't get why he was specifically there. Triple H said in the press conference, "Oh fuck, I forgot about the fact that Travis Scott smacked the shit out of Cody Rhodes and busted his eardrum.
Yeah,
forgot about that." And
like in real life, actually did that because he doesn't know what he's doing, and he hit Cody Rhodes so hard that he ruptured his eardrum.
Triple H went on a press conference and they talked about that. He goes like, when celebrities want to get involved with the WWE, some of them want to be involved, some of them want to be really involved, and then some of them want to be really, really involved. And he said Travis wanted to get his hands bloody. That's what he said. So he was like, "Oh, okay, make it count," and sure the fuck he did.
Man.
So there is absolutely a receipt coming for Travis Scott. For guys who know what a receipt is, it's a wrestling term for when something gets fucked up, essentially. Say, because, it's choreographed. Say you fuck something up and the other person gets hurt, you give them a receipt. So like, say, you go for a move or whatever and it gets fucked up and, something, that you hurt the other person might hit you in the face. That's a receipt.
Yeah.
So Travis Scott has a receipt coming, essentially. Yep. So that's what happened there. And then you had the Naomi Bianca thing where we found out that, I think we talked about on the last podcast that we didn't know what happened with blah 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 Jay Cargill and thing. We found out that Naomi was behind the whole thing.
So it was Naomi.
Naomi did it. She beat the shit out of her Elimination Chamber, and then this past Friday on SmackDown, they confirmed it.
Oh, wow.
She confirmed it. She's like, "I did it for you," which was very comparable to Rakishi's "I did it for The Rock." If you don't know that Naomi is married to Jimmy Uso, who is whose father is Rikishi.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane to me how many bloodline members of the Rock's family are involved in the WWE. It's crazy. There's so many.
Shout out to my homie Egypt, man. We were talking about they don't have any female members in the bloodline yet.
Oh.
So, I mean, you have like female members, like there's, Nia Jax, there's Ava Raine, who's the Rock's daughter on NXT. I mean, there's people there, but there's a member of the actual bloodline. Like the faction is not there yet. So
that's interesting. It's from an outsider looking in. I do think that they're going a little crazy with outside celebrities in the WWE.
And that's always been a thing, though, bro. Like you had like Cyndi Lauper and shit, like back in like the 70s. You had, then you had Dennis Rodman. Then you had,
I guess that's true.
Yeah, that's Mike Tyson with Stone Cold.
Trump.
I mean, that's always Trump. That's always been. Our president is undefeated at WrestleMania. Or sorry, not our president. Y'all president is undefeated at WrestleMania.
It's gotta feel good being Stone Cold knowing that you've stunnered the president.
I did see a stat that said it was a photo of it was like Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, Linda McMahon, Shane McMahon. It was like all the McMahons together, and there was like a bunch of kids, and then it was like. Just to let you know, and they were in the Oval Office, like, just to let you know, Stone Cold has stunned 46% of the people in this room, including the president.
God, someone tell Stone Cold to go do that again, man. President needs another stunner to wake his ass up.
And just so you know who our Department of Education is now, right?
I don't even want to talk about it.
I have a conspiracy theory. I think Vince McMahon was running the Trump campaign marketing, but
it's crazy. Like it just makes no sense to me. It's all such. I
was talking about that. Shout out to my boy Frost. We were talking about that like about a year ago or so, and then we found out, and then Linda was in the running for it, and then it happened. So it's just like, What the fuck are we? We're in idiocracy times. That's a different story. This is not that type of
Straight up.
podcast.
Yeah.
This is not anyway. So
It's hard not to bring that stuff into this. It's like so inundated right now.
yeah,
But
I mean,
anyways.
like we can't. Yeah, you can't make this shit up. Anyway, all right. What's our next topic, homie?
So before we went moving on, I did forget to read this part off because we talk about hip hop a lot, and I wanted to also bring in other genres of music that have had these sequels to them. And so just real quick, I just want to read off a quick list of some rock ones that have been pretty popular over the years. In 1973, David Bowie put out Aladdin Sane, which was a follow-up to Ziggy Stardust in 72. You had Queen in 1976. They put out A Day at the Races, which was a follow-up to Night at the Opera. In 1997, Metallica released Reloaded, which was a follow-up to their 1996 album Load. And then, let's see, Alice Cooper Goes to Hell in 76, which was follow-up to his first album. He also did another one, Welcome to My Nightmare, in 2011. Meatloaf put out Bad Outta Hell Part 2, following up his Bad Outta Hell Part 1 in 1993. Let's see some other ones. Neil Young put out Harvest Moon, which was a follow-up to his album Harvest. So there's a lot of examples outside of the hip-hop world. Jethro Tull's another one. Elton John has done it. The Kinks did it. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Pete Townsend from The Who. So there's plenty of examples outside of hip hop as well that have done this. So I just wanted to make sure to offer a little bit of perspective out of that too.
Cool. All right.
Moving right along, before we get out of here, we did want to run a something old, something new, because we didn't do that on the last couple episodes, actually.
Let's not play them, though, but we'll talk
Yeah,
about
no, we're
them.
definitely not going to play them anymore, especially because I don't know if we've actually said this on the podcast, but we're planning on going full steam ahead with video this year.
Yeah, as you can tell, like we got the production value game going now, baby.
Yeah, we got new GoPros, we got new cameras, we got new laptops. Look at us investing in ourselves.
What? Look at that. Look at that. Look at God. Look at that. All right, anyway.
So I'll start it off with something old here, and you don't have to look too much further from what I played to start the podcast with, and that was the 1982 album, The Sequence, out of the girl group The Sequence. And as I said, they were the first girl group in hip-hop. They were the first signees of Sugar Hill Records, which put out their the funk that we just listened to to start the podcast, which was the first hip-hop song out of a female group ever. And I think it's pretty important to note how far back they were. So they formed in high school in the 79, and the album came out in 82. And if you're curious, when you heard that song, it sounded much more like a funk record than an actual hip hop record. But something that you have to remind yourself about is in the early days of hip hop, in the infancy stage, hip hop records were more about the sound of it more so than having an actual rapping featured on it. Sugar Hill Gang did have that.
Rapper's Delight.
Rapper's Delight had that. But in the beginning, it was much more about the DJs and the sound production and the break beats and stuff. So hip-hop didn't necessarily mean rap in those early days. So I just wanted to make that distinction. If you've never heard The Sequence by The Sequence, it's a really cool album, and it's very funk-influenced. So you can go check that out on your own accord. E-Man, what do you have? Oh, and also rest in peace to Angie Stone.
Hey, okay. My rest in peace, Angie Stone. Actually, that's big. Like she did not get enough credit as far as hip hop influence, man. That's me. And I was late. I really didn't know anything about that until she passed, to be honest with you.
I agree. I knew about her singing career.
Soul, man. Yeah,
I didn't know about her rapping career.
Yeah.
Or hip-hop career, I should say.
I was late to the party on that. Anyway, I'm keeping it in the vein of hip-hop here. So, my something new is... Oh, sorry, something old. Now, I was actually really, really late to. I've heard... I mean, obviously, there's big singles off of this album, but I never really checked out the full breakdown of it, all 24 tracks, but it was Big Pun's Capital Punishment album.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was so late. Packing the Mac in the back of the ag, packing the Mac in the ag, packing the Mac in the back of the ag, packing the Mac in the back. Also, it's something I wanted to touch on too, and we don't have enough time in this. We can explore this in a later day, but I'm really glad the era of putting porn skits in albums is fucking over. That is so fucking annoying, bro. Like I can't. There's certain albums I want to put on, but I can't because of I want to put on big speaker, but I'm like, you're like even fucking Ready to Die. Like Ready to Die is one of my favorite albums all the time. You Oreo cookie eating, pickle juice blending,
Blended Slim Fast drinking,
fat black mafia motherfucker. I can't put that shit on speakers, bro.
Busta Rhymes has one too, and like the worst part about them in those days too is they didn't even bother to put it on a separate track, so it would come like at the end of one of your favorite tracks.
Oh shit! I think Big Puns does that too. Like I forgot what track it is, but it definitely blends into one of them.
Have you ever made the mistake of accidentally adding one of your favorite tracks like that to a playlist, and then all of a sudden that sex skit hits when you're like at a party or something, and you're like, wait, whoa, switch the track.
They're like, oh, what kind of freak shit you on, yo? Kind of freak shit you on, dog? Do I have a sound effect for that? I don't know. No, I'm not even gonna.
I wish.
I don't. I would gasm. I do have that somewhere. I just don't have it loaded. But yes. Anyway, but no, I'm glad that's on. Anyway, Big Pun, Capital Punishment came out April 28th, 1998. You got. Yeah, I was just like super late too as far as like the full project itself. Big Pun, I mean, as far as rhyme schemes go, as far as patterns, as far as like, influence in hip hop, like, I mean, that's already submitted in there. And as just me as like, okay, because my thing is I talked to, shout out, there's a pro wrestler that I actually talked to in XICW, Schwartzy. Shout out to Schwartzy. He's trying to get her to come on his podcast soon. But he was talking to me one day, and I kind of compare him talking about certain levels of pro wrestling as to hip hop. If you want to be a fan of all of it, because I don't like deathmatch wrestling at all, right? Because it's kind of gruesome as well, like CZW shit. He was talking about if you want to love the whole culture of it, you have to love all aspects of it. And I've learned that, and I can learn to appreciate certain things. So I've been kind of being learning to be more of a student of hip hop as I am learning to be a fan of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my research now on our legend. Like Big Pun is just one. I knew who he was, and I knew not a player, still a player, and things like that. But I never really dove deep into his catalog until recently, and this was something old like months ago, so I'm well versed now than I was then, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, and that goes for not just that, but I mean that goes for like the drill shit, which I'm not really a big fan of, but I can appreciate it for what it is. That goes to horrorcore, not really a big fan of it, but I'll appreciate what it is. I mean, you got to appreciate all of hip hop culture and all, like, to be consider yourself a fan. So shout out to Schwartzy for actually giving me that kind of nugget of info to marinate. So yeah,
I love it. That's super dope, man. Yeah, I love that album is crazy to me, man. It's just like such a crazy display of sheer rapping skill. It's like, I mean, his Big Pun was obviously a flawed person, but man, was he one of the greatest rappers of all time.
Big time.
One of the greatest. So moving on into something new, I am going with a band that I've been a big fan of for the last decade or so. And that is, they might not be known to the masses, so this might be kind of new territory for people on this podcast. But it's a band that was formed, and they're not from Michigan, but they were formed. They all met at U of M and became a band at U of M, and that band is called Wolfpack.
Oh yeah,
Wolfpack. He knows for sure. I'm talking more about the audience.
I got you. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but Wolfpack put out their first album in 3 years called Clarity of Cal, and it's they recorded it all live, so it's in front of an audience, and man, it sounds so dope, and it's got all of our favorite people from they're like almost like unofficial members. You got Wolfpack's founders are Joe Dart, Jack Stratton, Woody Goss, and Theo Katzman, but there's been guys that are like members that have solo careers but also perform with them all the time, and that's Joey Dosick, Antoine Stanley, who's also from Flint, Michigan, by the way. Shout out Antoine. Corey Wong, Charles Jones, and Jacob Jeffries. They're all just such skilled musicians, and they all sing. They all play different instruments, so they always are like rotating on stage. They're one of the best bands at crowd participation I've ever seen. they'll split the crowd up and do like these harmonies and shit. Like it is such a fun time to see Wolfpack live. And I'm just such a huge. I'm gonna play a little bit of a groovy track at the end of the episode to close us out tonight.
Can we do that?
Yeah, you can on these guys
Okay.
for sure. And then that's pretty much what I got for this one. I'm trying to describe what the sound sounds like. There's so many influences from older genres. I would think I felt a lot of 60s and 70s influence on this project. Some of it kind of felt a little bit Sly and the Family Stone influenced on a couple tracks, which I'm a big fan of. And just go see for yourself. A very skilled, multi-dimensional band. And since I mentioned Sly Stone, I guess I'll also say you should definitely go check out Sly Lives, which is the new documentary from Questlove about Sly and the Family Stone that's out on Hulu right now. But yeah, that's my something new. E-Man, what about you, my friend? Oh, and they have a movie coming out, a live concert film to go with the new Wolfpack album, by the way.
All right, so my something new. I'm gonna keep it because we were talking about like underground a little earlier. I'm gonna keep it underground, bro. Let's go with the Homeboy Sandman Illingsworth project that came out. Yeah, Dancing Tree was released. I want to say it was a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago. You guys are familiar with Homeboy Sandman? Dude's been around for like 15 years, probably early blog era, right? I would say.
Yeah.
And then Illingworth, shout out Detroit.
Yep, and Mellow Music Group.
Huge producer, Mellow Music Group.
Yep.
Huge producer from the city. I really love the collab effort with this. Like, Homeboy Sandman is just a testament to like, you have your core fan base. And just say, fuck the mainstream. I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna like try and make something for radio. I'm not trying to play something for like, somebody like that's easily digestible. I'm gonna make something for people to think about. I'm gonna make something for my core people that want to hear bars and shit. And it's always like these storytelling kind of like, not eccentric. What's the word I'm looking for? It's always like these kind of.
They're very poetic.
Yeah.
They're very deep
there's
and
always like different like caveats of info you want to keep going back to. Like if you're a fan, like there's always like this like little like breadcrumbs into like leading into other shit, which is Homeboy Sandman. And I always appreciate the artistry of that. And I've been a fan of his for a minute. So and then Illingsworth top, I think his biggest production track was on the IDK album, right? Red.
Yeah.
Was that like his biggest beat?
About that. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
Shout out to Illingsworth, shout out to Homeboy Sandman. That album is an album or EP?
I think it is an EP. I think
it's 4 songs. Yeah, that's definitely an EP. But yeah, I really enjoy it a lot. February 28th was a release, so last day in February. I love to see two people who don't get enough recognition, like in the respective art of hip hop, come together and make something like this. That's dope.
I think shout out to Mellow Music Group. They have such a great collective of underground artists that are just so dope. And it's funny because being that I've said it a million times on this podcast, I listen to Ebro in the morning every day, and Rosenberg is a part of that show. And Rosenberg is really close friends with Homeboy Sandman, and he said he was like, I respect the hell out of Homeboy Sandman, and he also frustrates the shit out of me because he has zero interest in doing radio interviews, zero interest in chasing charts. Like, he was like, I've had him on real late a couple times, and that was like very hard to get him to come do. So he was like, he just does not, he makes music purely for the love of making music.
That's cool, man. And,
hell yeah.
And I feel like that's a good lane for somebody like that. Like, you're comfortable in making what you want to make and fuck everything else.
Yeah.
If it was all so simple.
That was Frank Zappa's motto. I mean, he has so much weird out there music. And, once he got a little bit of money from his pursuits, he spent most of his career he would write orchestrations in his head for big orchestras. And then he would just pay for the orchestras to come out and perform what he had written just for him. A lot of the times he didn't even ever release these recordings or anything. It would just be like, basically, I want to see the music I have in my head perform to me. So it was like very interesting in that respect. So.
All right, we are at the hour mark. So
quickly before we get out of here, the big reveal, yes.
Bro, I watched Next Friday for the first time in like
For the first time?
time in
okay.
like couple about like 5 years or so. I try to watch every once in a while. I did not realize. Let me put the camera on me. I did not realize that Baby D is Lady of Rage.
I didn't know that either. Wait, really?
Yes.
Baby D is Lady
Rough
of
and
Rage.
tough with my Afro puff. That is Baby D.
You looked this up? Because I don't know
Yes.
if I ever knew what Lady of Rage looked like.
Yes, I looked it up.
Oh my god, that is a revelation right there. That is crazy. I didn't know that.
How the fuck did I miss this? Oh my god. I was like mind blown. Like, wait a minute. Somebody I don't know how that even came up. I was watching it and I think somebody might have I don't know how I went down a YouTube wormhole. I think I went through like a cast list or something like that. Because I was like checking like the dude who played Roach, he died because he was in the movie Kids. Because I think I looked that up, and then it went to the cast list, and then I was like, Lady of Rage, wait, no fucking way.
That is so funny.
I was so mind blown. I'm like, no way, dude. Anyway, yeah, Lady of Rage is Baby D.
So it says Lady of Rage went on to be featured on the sitcom The Steve Harvey Show on the WB as Coretta Cox, a recurring role that she played from 1977 to 2000, and also had a role as Baby D in Next Friday. That is hilarious. Oh my god, that's so funny.
I'm so yeah.
That's a good tidbit, E-Man. I'm glad you brought that
no
one to the
idea.
show. That's a good one. Oh, that's too funny.
All right.
All right. Well, let me pull up this song that we're going to take it out here with for tonight. This is the one specifically that kind of reminded me of Sly and the Family Stone. This is a song called Can You Tell, featuring Joey Dosick. And it has that kind of Sly and the Family Stone groove. So here's a little bit of that before we go, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Well, I guess I'm just a sensitive sort.